So this is the next day, and I'm still sick. But there were probably like two things I left out of yesterday's information, and I should write notes down, but I don't. One was I can't even remember. One was can't remember. There was two things though. One was early on when I wanted to deal with issues, I would say, and he would always figure out ways to evade. See, a borderline person. This is again before any sort of diagnosis. Okay, this is years before any kind of diagnosis, and years before, years of have been built up into the figuring out and kind of like taking apart the labyrinth of the layers. But if you stuck with feelings would dictate to you right away, and you got to listen to them right away. But this isn't. Most people don't listen to that right away, and they have desire for togetherness with their person, and they look to that instead. So early on, I would find myself saying, "You're running away. You're running away from these problems." Like he would, if I would say, "Well, what we got to figure this out. This is an issue that is very important to me, and we've got to figure this out." And oh, I'm going to go metal detecting. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When I say this and that, when I use those terms, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Oh, let's do this. Let's do that. I should be more specific. It could be metal detecting. It could be watching a movie. It could be going out to eat. It could be going shopping for food, shopping for gadgets, shopping for fireworks, shopping for anything. It could be meeting up with people. So I'd be like, "You're always running away." And then when I found myself saying that a lot, and he heard me saying that a lot, he would get very, very angry with me for saying, "Oh, uh, uh, he would." It was almost like he had been programmed now to severely dislike the words "you're running away." And the other day I was thinking it's kind of like the triggers are almost like somewhat of a Manchurian candidate kind of thing. Um, and then the other thing that was the one thing that I found myself saying was, "You're running away." Another thing is, "You're not making me the priority." I would say, "You got to make me the priority." I would even turn to the Bible saying, "Man leaves his mother and father." I actually like printed out the area in the Bible, because sometimes people can listen to and maybe awaken in somebody the more scholarly uh, proverbs that are very ancient and old. This is something that's been lasting throughout the years. There's a reason why certain things last throughout the years. So that's when I said, "You're not making me a priority." And there was something else too. There was another thing. Um, Basically, the anger and the rage. It, if I could just describe, for example, missing the subway, not like we go to the subway and it's just leaving. That would trigger so much rage. It would be like, "Motherfucker, fucking train, fucking come here, fucking," it would be like this. And I'd be like just watching this happen. I'm like, "You gotta calm down. You gotta calm down." Like, and how am I supposed to, um, how is being made love to supposed to happen when this person is so within themselves, and there's that wall and you can't get through that? Just forget it. I've had people say, there's this idea of makeup sex. No, there is no such thing as makeup sex. Okay, in these conditions, in these parameters, there is no sex. There is no sensuality. There's not anything that needs to be present for two people to be connected when when one person in the party is so consumed by their issues and themselves. Um, And what was the other thing? It's eluding me now. This other thing I used to say, um, or something that would come up. Anyway, that's just another addendum to the addendum of the addendum for that. I'm just trying to think of what else would transpire throughout the years besides, looking for work and trying to get through and trying to really find that intimacy. Did I get it? Caught it in my hand now I got it. And I released it and it was still okay. Um, the other thing was you got to slow down, slow down, calm down, slow down, um, stay calm, um, and none of this would work. It would seem like any of the routine ways a normal person would respond to 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 a situation where there is stress involved or a heightened sense of there's something seriously wrong. The whole breathing, drink a glass of water, none of this would actually work. Um, so there's no place to turn to except you just go to sleep and you wake up the next day and you do the best you can. And what's the best you can? Um, the best I could have done was get out early, get out sooner than later. But like I said, I had invested this thought that I had in my head that no matter what, I was going to stick with this person. And this again is even prior to marriage. So because I felt that once I reacquainted myself with him, I was like, I already dumped him the first time around. I don't want to do that to him again. There are so many good things that are there in him that I don't want to hurt him, and I do love him, and we do have a lot of fun. It's just that this stuff just pops up. It's overwhelming sometimes. It just overwhelms him, and unfortunately, the residual feelings of it began to overpower any sort of happiness. The happiness began to have this taint, this gray taint of this constant foreboding feeling of like it's lurking. It could pop out at any time. This anger could pop out at any time for any given reason. Um, if I even want or need to talk about my feelings and specifically directly related to us and him, it was intolerable for him, and he would. It would seem like he would just kind of like go into a different um, aspect of himself. That's another. There's all different words people could use instead of the scientific things that you could find. Because people do come up with that stuff, even though they don't. Before a diagnosis, you do come up. The symptoms are still there, and you still are coming up and experiencing the same exact things. But you might say he's like a Jekyll and Hyde. Okay, or there's an aspect of himself where you really got to get rid of this part of yourself. It's not this is not constructive, it's destructive. This is healthy or this is unhealthy. I used to say that a lot too. This is so unhealthy, so unhealthy. Um, and there was a lot of me being intertwined in this because here I am, intertwined meaning roped in, kind of like what I described with my father. They just kind of like roping in this type of talk, this runaround talk, to to inflame, to put salt on the wound and fuel to the fire, kind of thing, to engage me in that way. And I would be engaged. I definitely would be engaged, and I'd be very angry back. I would say at sometimes you're bringing out, we're supposed to bring out the best in each other, and you're bringing out the worst in me. I've never dreamed and never fathomed that I'd have these problems with anybody, that I'd have to contend with these problems. Um, I'm trying to forget. I'm still trying to think. I know I didn't hit on that other thing. I talked about me not feeling number one. Um, I never felt like cherished. Never felt like he's in the moment with me. and he'd sleep a lot, sleep during the day. And it kind of was like, oh, same kind of thing. What's wrong? Why are you sleeping? Why are you tired? Um, Nothing, just tired, that probably was depression, but he didn't seem depressed because he would always find a way to wake up and then be perky, as long as I didn't talk about the problems, and the lack and the neglect and the not dealing with meeting my needs. Um, eh, he would just be his quote unquote normal self again. Um, that's part of the trap too. The lure is thinking that this person that that's a cycle. It's just like you can get this person to just be their normal selves again, and the ugly beast would not come out again. No, the ugly beast will and does come out, and it's like the fucking end of the world when it does, and you don't think that there's any way out of it, and you just need to wait for it to blow over if you're going to be there, um and kind of just like be quiet. He was also a lot non-confrontational. He hated confrontation, which is not very helpful and healthy, because if you are being offended, then you need to speak up for yourself. So in life, he was constantly being offended and feeling as if he was abused, and not sticking up for himself. Not only with me. I mean, he obviously believes that I abused him while he's abusing me, of course. But yeah. So he would steer clear of confrontation, because what would happen is if he needed to confront, it would just the top would be blown so much, like you could literally see the steam, like before this he blows, you could just see the steam coming off of him, seething, boiling, the boil, like, until you take the lid off the pot. The pot lid just blows. So he knew not to be confrontational, and he would again, this is his self abuse, did not make itself known, except for when we moved into the newer apartment, and he punched the wall, or he scratched his keys or something into his knuckles or something. He hurt his knuckles, self-inflicted. Um, and then it was basically his anger. Maybe I'll talk about some other things now too. So I would say within these 9 years, I began to feel so much at a loss, and so much that I wonder if you can hear me if I do that. No, it's fine. That I began to write. He had told me to start playing guitar, so I did. We had when we were kids, and this is one of the good things that brought us. We had a commonality. We have a lot in common, a lot of love for life, which keeps us together, and it kept us together, I should say. So guitar, when I was a kid and he was a kid, we would play, and then I quit. So when we got back together, he got a guitar for me, and he's like, play, play, play. And he was always like, play. And then, so finally, there was a bunch of other reasons in my life why I decided to play. And so I picked up the guitar and started playing, and I started with children's songs. And then I started writing songs. I said within 2 years of playing, I started writing music. And a lot of the lyrics I was able to sing about some of the what I was going through, and about him. So I would think, I kept thinking, okay, if I can't reach him by giving him instructions and let me illustrate on him let me demonstrate on him. Can you do this for me? Can you do that? Can you kiss me like this? Can you do this? And would it stick? No, it would never stick. It was like he was a blank slate. Every time there was an opportunity to get intimate with one another, or what seemed like an opportunity, it was like he was a blank slate and didn't remember anything that I had told him prior that I liked, nor would he take that and grow from it to make it his own. And it was fraught with anxiety and fidgeting, and it's just a horrible situation when you want to share a love with somebody and you want them to feel loved. I kept believing he was feeling love from me, and he was, and I know it because he would cling to me. So, but I wasn't feeling it. Reciprocate, I would say. You have to reciprocate. I don't feel reciprocated. And at one point early on, like within the first year, I said, oh, this is the thing. One time when I said early on, this was like the first year or two of our relationship, I said, when you get angry, you're so unattractive. And he said, what? His response was this: what? You don't find me attractive? I was like, what do I say? No, then I have to backpedal. No, it's not that I said that. I do find you attractive, but this is there was no understanding. He's like, what? Oh, so now you don't find me attractive. Oh, great. Now you don't find me attractive. And that wasn't what the intent was behind what I said. It wasn't even what I said. I said this anger is very unattractive. Okay. Yeah, so that was the last thing. So it took me 16 minutes to get there. But yeah, and after, when I wasn't feeling this reciprocation, I started to feel used, and I actually felt betrayed. Like I felt like, and I would tell him I feel used, and he'd be very upset. Like, what do you mean you feel used? That was his response. It was always very, very aggressive responses towards me instead of trying to work it out. And there was little to no follow through. And again, going back to the songwriting, I thought that, if I demonstrated on him what I wanted, if I told him what I wanted, if I wrote down what I wanted, maybe in song, he would actually give a shit about the lyrics I'm writing, some of which, not all the songs were about him and my experiences with him, but just things that I was thinking maybe he'll find parts. Does this apply to us? There was no spection, like no drive on his end to try to figure me out. And that's part of the thrill of being with somebody, is somebody figures you out and gets you and knows how to get you and give it to you like how you want it. So yeah, I think that I covered that for now. Again, this is all early stage. Yeah, it takes 9 years, but hey, it takes me a long time. And I think I'll pick up on my songwriting and what turned to me in that direction, and where my thoughts were in the next video I do, and how my thoughts started to get darker and darker, really dark, to the point where I didn't find a purpose for my life anymore, and wanting to die. Never suicidal. Never. Okay? Me, never suicidal. But just dark feelings. I wouldn't say that I had clinical depression, because I would get up and do the things I needed to do. I'd take my responsibilities for the day, but just very dark thoughts. So I'll leave you with that. I'll leave you on a low note. Does anybody ever leave anybody for a low note? Well, here it is. I'll leave you on a low note.